Marvel fans, this one's freaking huge. Massive updates for Tom Holland Spider-Man 4 for the sequel to Beyond the Spider-Verse. And this whole situation gives further insight into what Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige are cooking with Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, and then Secret Wars. Also, stay to the end of the video. A scooper that I thought Kevin Feige had put on a gulag has made a return and delivered some insight about Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland. So I thought that would be kind of interesting to talk about as well. Okay, first up, let's break it down. What happened yesterday? Well, it came out in the Hollywood Reporter, one of the Hollywood trades, that Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland had found its director. Take a look at the article here. It's an exclusive. Spider-Man 4, Destin Daniel Cretton talks to direct. Tom Holland will be back under the mask for Marvel-Sony collaboration. The article reads, Destin Daniel Cretton is doing whatever a spider can. The filmmaker behind Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is in talks to sign on to direct Spider-Man 4. The movie brings an end to speculation of who would spin the web for one of the biggest franchises in Hollywood. Also, too, it's important to note here that although they say in talks or in final discussions or whatever, it's a done deal. It wouldn't be in the Hollywood trades if it wasn't a done deal. I guess technically something could happen before the ink's dry on the contract, but the news is that Spider-Man 4 is being directed by Destin Daniel. Cretton will bring fresh blood to this iteration of Spider-Man, which stars Tom Holland and is co-produced between the two separate studios, Sony and Disney-owned Marvel Studios. And it will make him the fourth director to take on a Spidey solo feature. John Watts directed the previous three Holland-starring movies, while Mark Webb helmed the two Amazing Spider-Man movies that starred Andrew Garfield. Sam Raimi directed the trilogy that featured Tobey Maguire. Now, to skip ahead a bit here, it does say that Chris McKenna and Eric Sommers are back on script duties, while Marvel head Kevin Feige and former Sony head Amy Pascal are producing. Sources say that Spider-Man 4 is running, not crawling, full steam ahead and will shoot early next year. Then they speculate a bit on the plot, which we will do ourselves. And then at the end here, it does say his nabbing of the Spider gig is also a vote of confidence on his work on Wonder Man, Marvel Television's Disney Plus series that stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, which is in post-production. The filmmaker remains attached to direct a live-action adaptation of Naruto and a sequel to Shang-Chi, but it's unclear how Spider-Man will affect these projects. So that happened last night. A lot of different people had different reactions to this. I personally think Destin is an incredible pick for this. I think Shang-Chi is one of the best movies in all of the Phase 4 of Marvel Studios, and I think the action sequences are brilliant. Here's another thing that not a lot of people are talking about when it comes to Destin. His productions do not seem to have major leaks. Shang-Chi had some leaks, but really, we didn't really know what that movie was going to be about. Like, the leaks were about a tournament, they were like fake, and then the production itself was like pretty closed up. There wasn't a lot of leaks for Shang-Chi. And Destin and his production company just dead-ass shot all of Wonder Man. While all of us were arguing about what's going to be happening with Marvel, they quietly shot Wonder Man, and there have been like 0 leaks about that show either. And later that night, insider Jeff Snyder did drop on his newsletter a big old story about this whole thing with Destin and Spider-Man 4. And in it, Jeff Snyder describes Marvel Studios understanding that they had basically done Destin Daniel Cretton wrong after signing a major exclusivity deal with him. Now, in the original Hollywood Trade articles, it just talks about how he's still attached to do Shang-Chi 2 and he's attached to Naruto, but Jeff Snyder elaborates on this a bit, saying that him being attached to Naruto was kind of a bargaining chip, and it was Destin and his team telling Marvel, use me or lose me. And that's because Destin was going to do Shang-Chi 2. Jeff Snyder says that production stalled creatively and is either being delayed or scrapped entirely. I mean, he said it's unclear whether or not they'll actually make Shang-Chi 2, and I don't know if they will or not. I do think you'll get more of Shang-Chi the character. I think he's gonna still be involved in what's going on in Doomsday and potentially what's going on in Secret Wars, potentially what's going on in Spider-Man 4. But I say all that to say that what was really going on there was Destin signs this massive deal. He's originally the director of the next Avengers movie in the Kang Dynasty. That gets completely scrapped and reworked, and Shang-Chi stalled creatively, so Destin goes and attempts to get the Naruto live action, which I think he would be amazing at. But it's also a signal to Marvel Studios, like, hey man, like, I have this contract with you, but I can still be attached to these other things. Please use me, or I will go do other things. this is Marvel's way of keeping him around. And it shows how valuable they find Destin. I mean, and I do think he is that valuable. I think he's an understated talent. Like, again, Shang-Chi was great. I think this dude has incredible sensibilities. And I think, like, a lot of us were looking forward to what he was going to do in Kang Dynasty just because of Shang-Chi. So now you get this happening. And this is another example, ladies and gentlemen, of Kevin Feige just being a brilliant producer, because think about how many problems this solves. Number one, if you want to make Destin happy and you can't figure out Shang-Chi 2, and he's definitely not doing the Avengers, what's the next best thing? Spider-Man, dude. Spider-Man is the biggest superhero on the planet, the most popular. I think even more popular than Batman. Spider-Man is that guy. On top of that, it gives a confidence to the Wonder Man show. It's going to make more people excited about the Wonder Man show, including me, because this dude did such a good job that they gave him Spider-Man. You see how the producer brain is working? I also think for a lot of Spider-Man fans, it's exciting that Destin is doing this movie because it's a fresh take. Like, this dude's going to come in fresh, and he's got really nice sensibilities. Like, what he did with Shang-Chi in that movie was awesome. And so this solves the problem of needing freshness, right? This solves the problem of, like, keeping Destin. This solves the problem of how to maybe make Wonder Man and some of these other things that Destin has done, like, more hyped up for fans. It's just brilliant, man. It's a really good move. And look, another thing that we got to talk about is the fact that this alludes to the potential of way crazier stuff going down in Spider-Man 4. This ties into this ongoing discussion and conversation around the plot of Spider-Man 4. Originally, it was going to be very street level. They had this Kingpin thing going on that was attached to Daredevil Born Again, and Daredevil himself was heavily rumored to be in Spider-Man 4, and it was going to just be very grounded. But now the plot's apparently going to touch on the multiverse. It potentially involves Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, which were definitely name dropped in the original Hollywood Reporter article, the one that announced that Destin was now directing the film. And you have insiders speculating that that movie, Spider-Man, is actually going to take place between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. However, if this movie actually hits the ground running and it's going to film early next year, which is a little bit different than what Daniel said. Daniel said it would film in the summer. Well, if it, like, gets kicked off mad early and it just crushes it, you could potentially see this movie coming out before Doomsday. And I think that's a major question out there as far as what the plot of this movie will be, because there's a big chance that at the end of Doomsday, there is no more Earth 616. There's only Battle World or the Battle World universe. So you can't, like, have a street level Spider-Man story if there's no street. You can't have a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if the neighborhood is gone. I want to talk more about that because, again, Can We Get Some Toast somehow escaped the gulag, broke out of prison, and is back on the internet scooping stuff about Marvel projects. But first, let's talk about Beyond the Spider-Verse and the third in the trilogy of the whole Across the Spider-Verse set of films. According to Jeff Snyder, it's delayed and basically starting from scratch, okay? Now, according to Jeff, this has to do with a creative overhaul. They just weren't satisfied that what they were doing in the third movie was going to be epic enough to be the end of that dope trilogy that they were building. So they're kind of like starting over, and it might not even come out until 2027 or beyond that. Now, look, although Jeff doesn't go into this in his newsletter, I think I know what's going on here. There are long-standing rumors that there was going to be a working together of Kang the Conqueror and of Miguel O'Hara in the Spider-Verse film. Like, that's an established rumor, okay? That's something that they were cooking. You probably saw videos and articles about this. My point is that obviously changed because Marvel Studios is like, hell no, get that Kang out of my face. Like, they're not doing Kang anymore. And I kind of think they're not going to do Kang in any way, shape, or form. And so therefore, Beyond the Spider-Verse now has to take a different route. They have to figure out a different way to potentially tie in to what Marvel Studios is doing, or completely ignore it and do their own thing. And on top of that, I think Sony has been thinking about how they want to handle this whole situation, what they want to do as Marvel Studios is doing their Secret Wars. And we heard a lot of scoops from, like, Daniel and Alex Perez that Sony wants to do multiversal stuff on their own after Secret Wars, and they are potentially building up Noel, the symbiote god, in Venom 3 and maybe setting up something that they want to do with like Null and all these multiversal totem spider people things. The point is, I think there was an original plan for Beyond the Spider-Verse which connected to what Marvel Studios was doing. Marvel Studios completely changed what they're doing, so this movie now has to completely change. And I suppose it's possible that Beyond the Spider-Verse will now tie into Doctor Doom, which I would absolutely love. But either way, the reports from Jeff are indicating that we need to be patient. We need to wait because they are basically starting from scratch while cooking what the end of this trilogy is going to be. Okay, but now let's talk about, can we get some toast? Somehow broke out of top Supermax security prison and is out there ruining Kevin Feige's day once again. Can we get some toast said, don't worry, MCU Spider-Man 4 is not a multiverse movie. At this point, Pete should be around 19 or 20. Before the spell, him and his friends were applying for college after graduating high school. Okay, so that's pretty wild. Do you trust? Can we get some toast? Do you want some toast? Who's toast? Is she my time to shine? And Daniel, are they all the same? What the But beyond that, I mean, I still think Toast has accurate information. I mean, the reason that Toast was going to go to the gulag is because he was literally ruining secrets that Kevin Feige had. Otherwise, Kevin Feige would not be trying to figure out who this person is. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's odd that Toast would say it's not a multiversal movie. And in fact, Toast is implying that the movie is about Peter maybe going to college or being in his college years, which is really interesting because we heard long-standing rumors that this new trilogy of movies they wanted to do with Tom Holland Spider-Man would be about his college years. But how does this fit into Daniel saying that the movie's going to touch on the multiverse and a lot of insiders, including Daniel, saying that Spider-Man 4 might take place between Doomsday and Secret Wars, and it might be a Battle World movie? Well, there's one of two things that are happening. Number one, the plan has changed, and now they think they can get Spider-Man 4 out before Doomsday, which I actually think would be the better option. Or number two, Battle World in the MCU Secret Wars movie is going to be very different than a lot of us are thinking. I technically speculated on this in a recent video, but it's possible that Battle World is just a persistent universe. Maybe it's just 616, but the Fantastic Four and the X-Men have always been there. So it's like just a now mashed together combined universe, but it's not like crazy extravagant where like Doctor Doom is God and there's castles and the Thor Corps is policing everything. Like maybe it's not that extravagant. Maybe it's just a new universe that only certain characters understand is incorrect or not real. I'm honestly down for either one, and I think either way we're going to touch on the multiverse. We're still going to get an intimate Spider-Man story. I think the Venom symbiote's going to be involved. I think it's going to be super cool, and I think Destin is a brilliant choice for this. Very exciting what he'll do with the action sequences and stuff like that. This is a W. I mean, I guess it sucks that Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be delayed, but if it's really good, I think we can wait. We waited years for the second one, so I think it'll be all right. Let me know what you think about that as well. That's it for this one, and as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.